The Galactic Council chambers hummed with quiet tension as Ambassador Krell of the Vorthan Empire stood before the assembled delegates. Representatives from dozens of civilizations filled the vast circular hall, their various forms creating a tapestry of evolved life across the galaxy. "The raids continue," Krell announced, his forearms gesturing toward the holographic display. 3 more colonies hit this cycle. The attackers leave no survivors, take no prisoners, and destroy everything in their path. Elder Moss of the Peaceful Collective leaned forward, her scaled features creased with concern. "These attacks are unlike anything we have seen. The weapons used? They are not of any known origin." Commander Rex from the warrior species, known as the Hunter, slammed his fist on his desk. "My fleets have searched every system in the Outer Rim. Whatever is doing this appears from nowhere and vanishes just as quickly." The chamber fell silent as Archivist Dale, the oldest member of the council, slowly rose from his seat. His ancient voice carried across the room like whisper of wind through dead leaves. "Perhaps," Dale said carefully, "we should consider the old stories." Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. The Vorthans clicked their mandibles in disapproval. Commander Rex snorted with disgust. "You speak of myths, old one," Rex growled. "We need real solutions, not fairy tales told to frighten younglings." Dale's eyes, clouded with age but sharp with memory, swept across the assembly. "Every species here has them. Stories passed down through generations. Tales of a race so terrible, so violent, that the universe itself banished them to the void." "The Terrans," whispered Ambassador Krell, the word leaving his mouth like a curse. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Some delegates laughed, others looked worried. Many had heard the stories as children tales of bipedal creatures with pale skin and forward-facing eyes. Hunters by nature, they were said to be so savage that they turned their own world into a wasteland before spreading their violence to the stars. "Humans," Dale continued, using the ancient name. "The stories say they came from a world of endless conflict, a species that knew only war, that thrived on violence and destruction. They were supposedly locked away in the dark reaches of space, in a region we now call the Dead Zone." Dr. Nova of the Science Collective activated her datapad with trembling fingers. "The Dead Zone has been mapped as empty space for over 2,000 years. Our long-range scans show nothing but void, because that is what we were meant to see," Dale replied. "The barriers placed around their prison were not just physical, they were designed to hide their very existence from our sensors." Commander Rex stood up, his massive frame towering over his desk. "Even if these humans were real, they would be primitives by now. Locked away for millennia, they could not have developed technology to match our fleets. Could they not?" Dale asked quietly. "A species born for war, given thousands of years to perfect their craft? A race that thrives on conflict, trapped in a cage for centuries upon centuries? What do you think such creatures would do with all that time?" A question hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Around the chamber, delegates began to shift uneasily. The attacks had been growing bolder, more frequent. Entire systems were going dark along the galaxy's edge. "The raiding patterns," Dr. Nova said suddenly, her voice barely above a whisper, "they are not random. Someone is testing our defenses, learning our weaknesses." Ambassador Krell pulled up star charts on his display. "If we trace the attacks backward," his voice trailed off as the pattern became clear. "All the raids formed a rough line pointing toward one region of space, the area they called the Dead Zone." "It cannot be," Rex muttered, but his confidence was shaking. "The humans are legend, stories, myths told by frightened ancestors." Dale slowly sat back down, his ancient bones creaking. "Perhaps they were myths, Commander. But myths have a way of becoming real when you least expect them." Outside the council chambers, beyond the edge of known space, something stirred in the darkness. Ancient engines, dormant for millennia, began to wake. In the void, where no life was supposed to exist, lights flickered to life. The lights of ships built for one purpose alone. War. The humans had been waiting, building, preparing. And now, after centuries of imprisonment, they were finally ready to remind the galaxy why they had been feared. The age of myth was ending. The age of reckoning had begun. Asterisk the mining station. Gamma 7 orbited the lifeless rock of Kepler 442c in peaceful routine. For 15 years, the automated extractors had pulled rare minerals from the planet's core while a skeleton crew of 12 beings maintained the operation. Chief Operator Bill was reviewing the daily reports when his console started, flashing red. "What now?" he muttered, his 6 eyes focusing on the display. The proximity sensors were detecting something large approaching from the outer system, something moving faster than should be possible. "Hey, Tom," Bill called to his assistant, a young collective member fresh from the academy. "Run a diagnostic on the long-range sensors. They are showing impossible readings." Tom's tentacles danced over his controls with practiced ease. "No malfunction, Chief. I am detecting a massive object. No, multiple objects approaching our position." The main screen flickered to life, showing the dark emptiness of space. Then, like ghosts materializing from a nightmare, shapes began to appear. They were ships, but unlike anything in the galactic databases. Where Galactic Council vessels were smooth and elegant, these craft were angular and brutal. Their hulls were dark metal, covered in sharp edges and weapon ports. They moved with the grace of predators stalking prey. "Send a standard greeting," Bill ordered, his voice steady despite the fear creeping up his spine. Tom transmitted the universal peace signal, followed by standard first contact protocols. The response came back immediately, not in words, but in action. The lead vessel opened fire. The mining station's shields held for exactly 4 seconds. The weapons that struck them were unlike anything in galactic records, streams of superheated plasma that cut through defensive barriers like paper. The station shook violently as secondary systems began failing. "Mayday! Mayday!" Tom screamed into his communicator. "This is Mining Station Gamma 7. We are under attack by unknown vessels. Request immediate." The transmission cut off as another volley slammed into their hull. Through the chaos, Bill could hear something that chilled his blood laughter. The attackers were laughing. In the lead ship's command center, Captain Mark studied the destruction with cold satisfaction. The aliens' defenses were pathetic, their technology centuries behind human innovation. The isolation had been a gift, allowing humanity to focus on what they did best: warfare. "Surface scans complete, Captain," reported Lieutenant Kate from her weapons station. "Minimal resistance. The mining operation appears to be fully automated." Mark nodded. The humans had learned patience during their long exile. These raids were not about conquest, they were about learning. Every attack taught them more about their enemy's capabilities, their weaknesses, their fear. "Any survivors?" Mark asked. "2 life signs detected in the lower levels," Kate replied. "Orders?" Mark considered for a moment. In the old days, before the exile, humans might have shown mercy. But centuries of isolation had changed them, hardened them. They had become something darker, more focused. "Take them alive," Mark ordered. "We need information." The human boarding party moved through the dying station with military precision. They wore armor that seemed to absorb light, making them appear as moving shadows. Their weapons were compact, but devastatingly effective. Bill and Tom huddled in the emergency shelter, listening to the sound of boots in the corridor outside. The footsteps were rhythmic, measured the walk of trained soldiers. The shelter door exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped a figure that made both aliens freeze in terror. It stood on 2 legs, like the ancient stories described, with pale skin and eyes that seemed to look straight through them. When it spoke, Its voice was calm and cold. "You will answer our questions," the human said in perfectly accented galactic standard. "Tell us about your defenses. Tell us about your fleets. Tell us everything." Bill found his voice first. You are human." The soldier smiled, and the expression was more frightening than any snarl. "We are. And we have been watching you for a very long time." Within hours, the human ships vanished as quickly as they had appeared, leaving behind only wreckage and 2 traumatized survivors. By the time Galactic Council forces arrived at the scene, there was nothing left but debris and scanner logs that showed impossible energy. Readings. The survivors' testimony sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The myths were real. The humans had returned, and they were nothing like the primitive savages of legend. They were something far worse, a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of war, and now they were loose among the stars. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity had been locked away. The real war was just beginning. Asterisk. Deep in the dead zone, beyond the reach of galactic sensors, a sight both magnificent and terrifying unfolded. The human fleet that emerged from hiding was not the ragtag collection of primitive ships the Galactic Council had imagined. It was an armada that spoke of centuries of focused military evolution. Admiral James stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution, watching as hundreds of warships powered up around him. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering: sleek destroyers, massive battlecruisers, and the crown jewels of human naval power, the dreadnoughts. "Fleet status report," James commanded, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of tactical displays. Commander Lisa stepped forward, her expression grim but determined. "All battle groups report ready, Admiral. 237 ships of the line, fully armed and provisioned for extended operations." The numbers were impressive, but James knew they represented more than mere statistics. Each ship in this fleet carried the hopes and hatred of billions of humans who had spent generations trapped in this dark corner of space. "Intelligence summary from the forward scouts?" James asked. "The alien civilizations have grown soft, sir," Lisa reported, consulting her datapad. "Our raids confirm what we suspected. They have known peace for too long. Their weapons are designed for defense, their tactics focused on protection rather than destruction." James nodded grimly. It was exactly what human strategists had predicted. While humanity had been locked away, forced to survive in the harsh void, the rest of the galaxy had grown comfortable. They had forgotten what real war looked like. On the planet, Earth now called New Terra, billions of humans went about their daily lives in massive underground cities. The surface of their world was a monument to their resilience, transformed from the wasteland of legend into a fortress world that could support their entire species. Dr. Alex, Chief Science Officer of the human fleet, reviewed the technological gap between human and alien civilizations. What the exile had cost humanity in resources, it had given back in focus. Every piece of technology, every weapon, every ship design had been crafted with one purpose: to ensure human survival through superior firepower. Energy shields operate on predictable frequencies, Dr. Alex explained to the fleet commanders via holographic conference. Our plasma cannons are specifically tuned to disrupt their defensive systems. Their hulls are designed for comfort and efficiency, not battle damage. The human ships themselves told the story of their exile. Unlike the smooth, artistic designs favored by galactic civilizations, human vessels were brutal and practical. Every surface was armored, every weapon system redundant, every crew compartment designed to function even under catastrophic damage. Captain Bob of the destroyer, Vengeance, studied the tactical briefings with satisfaction. His ship was one of the smaller vessels in the fleet, but it carried more firepower than most alien battleships. The humans had learned to make every shot count, every resource precious. "Target priorities?" Captain Bob asked during the briefing. Admiral James pulled up galactic star charts. highlighting dozens of systems along the galaxy's edge. We begin with the outer colonies. Mining stations, research outposts, shipping lanes. We want them to know we are coming, but not where we will strike next. The strategy was classic human warfare psychological, pressure combined with tactical strikes. The goal was not immediate conquest, but the systematic breakdown of enemy morale and coordination. Lieutenant Sue, the fleet's youngest commander, raised her hand. "What about civilian populations, Admiral?" The question brought silence to the conference. It was a topic that had divided human leadership for decades. Some argued for total war, the complete destruction of alien civilizations that had imprisoned humanity. Others pushed for a more measured approach. "We are not monsters," Admiral James said finally. "But we are not mercy either. Military targets first, but anyone who stands against us will face the consequences." The human fleet began to move, spreading out across multiple vectors toward the galactic rim. Their ships slipped through space like sharks through dark water, invisible to alien sensors, undetectable by conventional means. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions continued as reports flooded in from across the outer territories. The pattern was becoming clear: systematic strikes against military installations, mining operations, and communication relays. The attackers struck without warning and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. But it was more than just the attacks themselves that terrified the galactic civilizations. It was the realization that somewhere in the darkness, an entire human civilization had been preparing for this moment for centuries. The exile was over. The humans were free, and they were coming for everyone who had put them there. The real war for the galaxy had begun. Asterisk. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 3 days straight. Representatives from every major civilization crowded the assembly hall, their voices raised in fear, anger, and desperation. 17 systems have gone dark in the past week alone, announced General Ross of the Military Coalition, his massive form casting shadows across the speaker's podium. "Whatever we are facing is not the primitive force we expected." Commander Eve of the patrol fleet stood to address the assembly, her normally composed demeanor showing cracks of strain. "Our response fleets arrive at attack sites to find nothing but debris. These humans, if that is truly what they are, strike with precision and vanish before we can engage." In the observer section, Archivist Dale watched the proceedings with growing dread. He had warned them, but no one had truly listened. The myths had become reality, and reality was proving far worse than legend. "We need to understand what we are facing," declared Science Minister Ray of the Research Collective. "Our intelligence suggests the human fleet numbers in the hundreds of ships, all equipped with technology we do not recognize." The holographic display showed footage from the few survivors of human attacks. The ships were sleek predators, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light itself. Their weapons cut through galactic defenses like they were made of paper. Admiral Max of the Defense Forces stepped forward, his blue-scaled face set in determination. "I am proposing immediate mobilization of all available fleets. We outnumber these humans 10 to 1. If we can force them into open battle—" "You do not understand," interrupted Dale, his ancient voice cutting through the military posturing. "Humans do not fight like us. They do not seek honorable battles or fair engagements. They are hunters, predators. They will choose when and where to fight, and it will always be to their advantage." The chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives called for negotiation, others for immediate attack. A few suggested evacuation of the outer territories entirely. Through it all, the human fleet continued its systematic campaign. They struck communications hubs, leaving entire sectors blind. They hit supply convoys, creating shortages and panic. Most importantly, they gathered intelligence with each attack, learning their enemies' capabilities and weaknesses. Captain Dan of the human cruiser Nemesis reviewed the latest intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. The alien response was exactly what human strategists had predicted: chaotic, divided, and reactive rather than proactive. Their fleets are powerful but slow, Dan reported to Admiral James. They rely on heavy shields and armor instead of speed and maneuverability. Their command structure is too democratic. They argue instead of acting. Humans have learned different lessons during their exile. Cut off from the rest of the galaxy, they had been forced to develop unity of purpose and decisive leadership. Every human in the fleet understood their mission and their role in it. Meanwhile, the Galactic Response Fleet was finally taking shape. Over 3,000 ships from dozens of civilizations, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. They gathered at the strategic world of Kepler Prime, a massive show of unity and strength. This should be enough, Admiral Max told the assembled fleet commanders. Even if the humans are as dangerous as reports suggest, they cannot stand against this force. But the humans were already watching. Stealth scouts observed the alien fleet's assembly from the edges of the system, taking detailed scans of every ship, every weapon, every defensive capability. They are making our job easier by gathering in one place. Captain Bob reported from his hidden position. Request permission to begin harassment operations. Admiral James considered the request. The temptation to strike at the gathered fleet was strong, but human strategy required patience. Negative. Let them come to us. We have chosen our battlefield. The human fleet had withdrawn to the outer dark, a region of space filled with asteroid fields and stellar debris. It was terrain that favored their smaller, more maneuverable ships over the large formations preferred by galactic forces. As the Galactic Response Fleet began its advance, civilian populations across the rim worlds evacuated deeper into Council space. The exodus created chaos in shipping lanes and resource distribution, exactly what the humans wanted. Fear spread faster than the human ships themselves. Every unexplained sensor ghost, every communication glitch, every minor mechanical failure was attributed to human infiltration. The psychological warfare was as effective as the physical attacks. In the depths of space, Admiral James studied the approaching galactic fleet through long-range sensors. They came in parade formation, proud and confident. They had never faced an enemy like humanity. All units, prepare for battle, James commanded. Time to show the galaxy what humans learned during our exile. The decisive battle was approaching, and with it, the galaxy's fate. The Battle of Kepler's Edge would be remembered as the moment the galaxy learned to fear humanity. As the massive galactic fleet advanced through the asteroid field, they believed their overwhelming numbers guaranteed victory. They were wrong. Admiral Max stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity, watching his scanners show nothing but empty space ahead. "Where are they?" he muttered. 3,000 ships strong, his fleet should have detected the human force by now. "Contacts," shouted his sensor operator. "Multiple signatures all around us." The human fleet had been waiting, hidden among the asteroids, using the debris field to mask their approach. As the galactic ships moved deeper into the trap, human vessels emerged from every direction. Admiral James smiled coldly from the bridge of retribution. "Execute Order 7, he commanded. The human attack began with devastating precision. Their ships darted between asteroids like fighters, striking at the larger galactic vessels with concentrated firepower. The aliens' parade formation became a liability as their own ships blocked each other's firing solutions. "They are everywhere." Admiral Max screamed into his communicator. "All ships, break formation and engage." But breaking formation only made things worse. The human fleet had trained for this exact scenario, multiple ship types working in perfect coordination. Their destroyers harassed the larger vessels while their cruisers delivered, killing blows to damaged targets. Captain Dan's nemesis carved through the alien formation like a blade. His weapons, designed specifically to defeat galactic shielding, tore through enemy defenses with ease. Around him, other human ships executed the same deadly dance they had practiced for centuries. The technological gap became brutally apparent. Where galactic weapons were designed for defense and deterrence, human weapons were built to kill. Every shot was calculated for maximum damage. Every tactical decision focused on enemy destruction. Fall back, Admiral Max ordered, watching his fleet dissolve around him. Retreat to Rally Point 7. But there would be no retreat. The human fleet had anticipated this as well. Their fastest ships had already moved to cut off escape routes, while their heavy units continued the slaughter. Commander, Eve tried to organize a defense screen around the galactic command ships, but human tactics made conventional fleet defense impossible. The enemy struck from unexpected angles, using the asteroid field's cover to appear and vanish at will. Sir, her communications officer reported with a shaking voice. We have lost contact with 60% of the fleet. The battle lasted only 3 hours. When it ended, the pride of galactic civilization lay in ruins among the asteroids. Of 3,000 ships, fewer than 200 limped away from the battlefield. The human fleet had lost only 17 vessels. On Earth, the news of victory was received with quiet satisfaction rather than celebration. Humanity had proven its point. The galaxy would never again dismiss them as myths or primitives. Admiral James broadcast a message on all galactic frequencies, his voice carrying to every world in council space. This is Admiral James of the Human Expeditionary Fleet. For over 2,000 years, you imprisoned our people in the dark reaches of space. You thought us destroyed, forgotten, irrelevant. The message continued as rescue ships searched for survivors among the wreckage. You were wrong. We survived. We adapted. We became something more dangerous than your worst nightmares. This battle was not conquest, it was a demonstration. Across the galaxy, alien civilizations watched the aftermath with growing horror. The human demands were simple but absolute: recognition of human sovereignty, reparations for the exile, and most importantly, a complete restructuring of galactic governance. In the council chambers, the few remaining representatives sat in stunned silence as they reviewed the battle recordings. The systematic destruction of their greatest fleet had taken less time than their typical debates. Archivist Dale, one of the few who had tried to warn them, spoke into the silence. We have awakened something that should have remained sleeping. The humans are not the savages of our stories. They are something far more dangerous. They are us, perfected for war. The negotiations that followed were not negotiations at all, but humanity dictating terms to a defeated galaxy. The human hegemony would take its place among the galactic powers, but on their terms, with their rules. The exile was truly over. Humanity had not just returned to the galaxy, they had conquered it. The species that had once been locked away as too dangerous for civilization had proven exactly why they had been feared. In the years that followed, the galaxy would adapt to its new reality. But they would never forget the lesson learned at Kepler's Edge. Myths have a way of becoming real, and humanity's greatest myth was that they could ever truly be contained. The age of human dominance had begun. The end asterisk